Mr. Quraishi, I would like to start with you first, sir. I remember speaking to you when the judgment had come and you had termed this judgment historic. Now, you've also seen that the government is coming up with a bill. The change that the government has made is excluding the Chief Justice of India from the selection committee and including a minister nominated by the Prime Minister. How do you see this development, sir?
You see the mixed bag. First of all, it is a compliance of the Supreme Court that a collegium system is being introduced. And a bill has been passed, and Supreme Court had said that till such time that the bill comes, some arrangement was suggested, a collegium consisting of the Chief Justice. Now, collegium is being constituted. The only difference is that CJI has been excluded, and a cabinet minister appointed by the Prime Minister will be the second person. So, now, if the decision making is by majority, obviously the 2-1, the leader of opposition will become totally useless and meaningless. Now, there are 2-3 good and interesting new things which have happened. Now, one, that a search committee has been proposed, led by the Cabinet Secretary and with 2 senior most secretaries of Government of India, and who will select 5 names. Second important thing is that earlier there was no qualification prescribed. Anybody from the road could have been picked up and made a CEC. Thank God it hasn't happened in the last 10 years and it hasn't happened in the last 70 years. Now, qualification prescribed is as a secretary level officer with experience and integrity.
Right.
That's a very good thing. So, therefore, now whether the Chief Justice's exclusion is a good thing or a bad thing, both opinions can be expressed. Chief Justice is present in various collegiums, and what has been the performance of those collegiums? Director CBI, CJI is the party, and we have seen a director of CBI about whom IB reported that a criminal went to his house 183 times in 1 year.
Okay.
And but that was the quality of the selection by that collegium. And then even when this was brought out very openly, Supreme Court did not act, Chief Justice did not act, the guy completed his tenure until today, the inquiry has not been completed. So, therefore, that raises another thing. Mr. Hegde perhaps will bear me out. Now, if suppose the appointment of a commissioner is questioned in the Supreme Court. Now, if Chief Justice has been a party to the selection,
okay,
and he sits in judgment on that selection there, or his subordinate judges sit in judgment, it will be very awkward for a junior judge to overrule what Chief Justice has decided.
It will be basically a conflict of interest there.
There is a conflict of interest. Therefore, keeping him out and having a collegium is fine. But provided it becomes essential that the decision will be unanimous. Which means the leader of opposition will not be marginalized. And it is very easy. And secondly, now, whether this will amount to leader of opposition having a veto power?
Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. Because he will be selecting from a panel of 5 selected by the Cabinet Secretary. And Cabinet Secretary is a government man. 4 extensions given. Obviously, he will not spring a surprise on the Prime Minister by bringing in any undesirable name. So, this selection committee is a good idea, but it has to be unanimous decision.
It has to be unanimous. If it is majority, then of course it is the will of the government that will prevail. But Mr. Quraishi, so overall, in perspective, the whole idea and the spirit of the judgment of the Supreme Court was to ensure that the Chief Election Commission and the election commissioners are above question. There are not doubts which are raised against them as far as the process is concerned. Do you feel that this bill upholds that spirit?
Yes, it can be provided, the condition which I have mentioned to you is implemented. There is another great thing which has happened through the bill, which nobody seems to have noticed it. For the last 20 years, we have been demanding that the CEC is protected from removal. He can be removed only through impeachment. The other 2 can be removed very easily. So they used to feel they are on probation. And if some commissioner feels he's on probation on the government's instruction, he can overrule the chief CEC 10 times a day. Now, that protection has been given to all three. That's a great thing and which needs to be appreciated. And with one more sentence, I'll finish my thing because I have to move on to somebody else.
Sure.
One negative thing which has happened, that they have downgraded the status of the CEC and the Commission from the Supreme Court judge to a cabinet secretary. Earlier, before Mr. Session, it used to be secretary, now cabinet secretary. Although salary of the cabinet secretary and Supreme Court judge is the same, but in warrant of precedence, in stature, that has been downgraded. I'm sure it is not intentional, and government would like to reconsider.
Very quickly, sir. In the end, I just want to ask you one more question before I let you go. Also, no matter what the selection process is, once you are on that seat, doesn't it also depend on how the election commissioner decides to exercise the powers given to them? I mean, in the end, it's their propriety and responsibility, the chair that they are occupying, isn't it?
Absolutely. I entirely agree with you because it's a matter of individual style and conscience. For 70 years, they've been appointed by the government of the day. Many of them have been absolutely non-controversial. It's a question of conscience. And even during this regime, Ashok Lavasa case, he stood up. O.P. Rawat of this regime was a great CEC. There used to be editorial about him. So it's a matter of individual conscience also, and his backbone and his style of functioning.
Mr. Quraishi, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.